Welcome to Stock Talk, a podcast that draws on the experience and advice from people within the livestock industry. I'm your host, Kirsten Williams, and today we are joined by Mr. Ross Robertson. Welcome to the podcast, Ross.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Good, thank you. Now, you wear many different hats, Ross, in that you work for UK Agri-Tech as a farm technology specialist, but you are also a sheep farmer. How would you explain your role at UK Agri-Tech?
My sheep farming bit is a before breakfast and after dinner. Sheep farming, I've got a small flock of pedigree sheep. But as a farm technology specialist, day-to-day job, I help manage 25 commercial farms around the UK that we do commercial and research development work on. These farms are not owned by us in any way. They're private organisations that we work in collaboration with, not partnership. And we'll use these farms for testing, as I said, but also to get feedback from the farmers on the products that we're developing there with SMEs, companies, etc. Which is really interesting because it's a broad spectrum of work. Not every 2 days is the same. Not every hour is the same. I could be working with strawberries in the morning and sheep in the afternoon, and the next day I might not be anywhere near sheep or cattle. It's really interesting, a varying range of jobs, but it's not just technology, it's different innovations as well. So that's the beauty of it. It's something different every day, and I could be working on commercialised tech one day, and then something that's very, very low technology readiness level, research level. So it's very interesting work, actually.
I think another word I've heard them being called is satellite farms, that you've got dotted around the country. How many of them are in Scotland?
We have 8 of them in Scotland currently, ranging from Ellen right the way down to the borders, which are good. We've got a good range. We've got arable. Most are mixed farms. We've got a couple that are dairy only, and then we've got a pig farm with a bit of arable on it as well. A lot of livestock, a lot of cattle and sheep. But we've got a good range. We've actually got a software farm there as well, which really helps different parts of the industry going forward.
And technology and innovations, massive space. Not a lot of people in agriculture really working in that space and understands it. So I think in that way you're very unique. But there is a lot being developed. And since your time at UK Agri-Tech or Agri-Epi, how much has that space grown? Like, how much more is there out there from when you started?
I couldn't give you exact figures, but it's massive. I mean, obviously, that's 3.5 years I've been with the organisation now. Obviously, previously Agri-Epi, and then obviously the 3 organisations, Agri-Epi Centre, CHAP and CL, came together to make the UK Agri-Tech Centre. It's massive. There's companies out there that I've never knew existed in the space that are trying to break into agri, or were already in agri, but they might be that small that they're making products for a larger one as well. But it's just some of the work that's going on as well with these companies. It's something that I've not had anything to do with, coming from a livestock background and sales background. There's companies I'm now working with, and like I say, never knew they existed. Didn't know some of the stuff was even a thing that they were working on until I actually saw it firsthand, which really makes this job interesting, because there's people coming to the woodwork that, like I say, didn't know even existed, and the stuff that they were doing didn't even know it was a thing. So it makes farming look, or the agri-tech sector look, really futuristic, because there's stuff that we're working on is maybe 7-8 years away from being commercially ready, and we're working on it now, which it's quite exciting actually being a part of it.
So if like you work from, did you say from strawberries to sheep? If we think about livestock, looking at the different sectors, what tech is really interesting you at the minute? So I don't know, do we start with dairy?
Yeah, dairy. Dairy's massive. So it's all the different camera technologies that are coming into dairy now, looking at dermatitis in feet, sort of animal recognition just on the colour markings on their bodies, even the data integration side of things on dairy. So obviously, and this is the biggest problem in different technologies on farm, is every technology has a login that the farmer has to have. So you could have a farmer that has 14, 15 different logins for all different tech. There are now companies in the dairy sector that are making a platform that, working through APIs, all the data can be pulled into one, so the farmer only has one login. But
Amazing.
it's getting the companies to speak to that one platform is the biggest thing, because it's the same as a sales pitch. It's my product. I'm keeping it to myself. That's my sales point. A lot of them won't open up, but then ones that do open up really open themselves up to extra business as well. So the dairy industry is ahead on that as well as all the robotics side. Arable, there's a lot of robotics and the precision side of things is coming through. So like you've obviously got your robotic tractors, you've got your light weeders, your spot spraying, all things that are helping with that precision side to lower costs, but also lower greenhouse gas emissions as well as a whole. Although it might lower the GHG a little bit, it's the bigger picture for the whole agri sector is what they're doing, which is great to see. Pig industry, chicken industry, there's quite a lot around the animal health and automated side of things. Obviously, pigs, some of the technology in pigs has been around 15, 20 years, but it's still way ahead of what we're doing in the sheep and the beef industries. Sheep and beef are behind, but a lot of the technologies that come to them are coming out of dairy and being changed to work with beef and sheep, which is good. But it would mostly be around weighing and animal health, and beef and sheep would be the main ones. Automatic weighing, dosing to weight, that kind of thing. It's all coming through. And obviously these little changes are making big differences for each sector.
I think one of the points you said there about having a platform that all the data feeds into, that's massive. The amount of people that have got various different data
Mm-hmm.
sources coming into a farm, so many different places to look, passwords to have, logins to have, having one place that brings all that together and actually using that different aspects of data to come across one conclusion instead of trying to look at it all and come to various different conclusions. That's massive.
Yeah, and I think the greatest thing about that is the farming business is only having to log into one place and all the data is there as information for them to make decisions on farm. Whereas in other sectors, it's a CSV download and you're having to make your own Excel document or something along that lines. And a lot of people don't have time to do that Excel document, or they forget their login to something simple, and then they just go, "Oh, I'm not using it anymore." And they'll just go back to their traditional way of writing it down. And this is where a lot of data apps that are now coming out are being able to integrate into other people's stuff. So if you've got a livestock management package that can feed into a carbon toolkit or a carbon calculator, these kind of things, if these people start speaking to each other, it's making it easier for the sector, and it'll give the farmers more buy-in to the different products as well, which is a
Yeah.
great thing. And that's one of the things that farmers are in the industry as a whole, not just farmers, are looking at wrong. I think this is my opinion, on when they're trying to adopt new technology on farm. They're looking at something big and shiny on a trade stand at a show and going, "Oh, that's 10 grand. Oh, I'm not buying that." They're not looking at the data that's coming out of it for them to then save money or become or increase their productivity on farm. They're just looking at that big shiny product sitting in front of them, not what's on the computer screen.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because farm investment margins are tight, so it is difficult to look at investments, and you're always looking at a return on investment. How quickly do I
Mm-hmm.
get money back for that? And data is a big, it's massive actually, data, isn't it? But you've got to have the time to get through it, crunch it.
Yeah,
What does this mean for me? What data, what's my problem? What do I want to get out of this? So there's a huge bit of work probably has to take place before you think about what do I need to invest in?
fully. Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's the return on investment. You just have to look at some of the articles that have been in the press recently. 300 tons of barley is the same as sitting in the sheds, the same price as 17 store cattle, kind of thing. That just shows you the value in store cattle just now. But you need to have the data behind that animal to grow it to the next stage or sell it fat. And if you don't have the accurate data behind that, or you're just doing it on your eye, you could be penalising yourself for putting the animal overweight, or it could stand still and not grow anything because you're handling it too much and take it out of its comfort zone. If you've got the data behind that, you can see it. It's the same in nutritional changes. You might be feeding the same silage as you did last year without a sample. You could be just doing the same old thing. Here's some rate meal and here's some bruised barley, and the cattle are not performing. If you've got something they're actually monitoring what they're doing, you can make these changes to increase your productivity. It's just the littlest things make these big changes.
How big a problem do you think is understanding the data within the agricultural industry? The ability to maybe download to Excel, understand how to crunch the data to make it meaningful?
I think, again, it's my opinion. I think it is a big problem. It's almost we're going to have to go back to school to actually be taught these things. And I think that is one of the biggest issues recently with all these capital grants coming out. Here's this shiny box for helping wean your cattle. But then once you've got it on the farm, it becomes an expensive doorstop because there wasn't the training facility to actually teach you how to use the full capability of that box. Yes, it shows the weight of the animal up on the screen, but that box maybe has 20 other capabilities inside it, and you're not actually benefiting anything from it without the training. And that's been a big issue with the grants are great for getting the tech out there, but not for actually using the tech to its full capability, would be the easiest way to describe it.
Is there a seamless link here to some resources that are available that you were involved with researchers from SRUC and others?
There could be, yeah. So I actually was a part of a project with University of Edinburgh where we developed a free online training facility for people just to even learn the basics in Excel. Now, obviously, that went right back to the basics of this is a cell, this is a row, this is a column, but it was free. You could do it any time. You didn't have to complete the course. You don't get a certificate at the end, but it's teaching you the basics on even Excel, which is obviously the main product that all these data platforms are downloading to. So that was quite good, and that was funded by Data Lab, which is obviously funded by the Scottish Government, which was great to be a part of that and get it out there to the students and stuff to try it first, and then people like yourself who tried it out for me, which was great to be a part of that, and obviously getting just even the voice of that out there to the funders to say we need things like this to train people. It's the average age of farmers might be rising, but it's actually quite incredible the amount of people that are using tech even at that older age as well. There are some really tech savvy older generations kicking about, and we saw that in the survey we did in a project recently, didn't we? Where the amount of tech being used by the older generation was actually just about outweighing people younger than us. So it didn't actually make a difference what age you were, and that is there for everybody to use free of charge. And it was really good to be a part of.
Yeah, well, we'll maybe put the link to that in the show notes so people
Yeah.
can click onto it and find it, Ross. One of the other things you'd said there was about how the beef and sheep tech is largely coming from the dairy. Now, a dairy calf and a beef calf are quite different. How is that? Is that tech needing adapted to kind of go from the different types of calves? How do the algorithms work?
So, I mean, obviously, one we've been working with ourselves was the health monitoring tags. That's come from development in dairy. It's gone into the beef herd. Obviously, you're putting it into a beef calf at an older age, normally about weaning and housing for bringing on for store or fattening. When they're at that susceptible stage of the stress of being weaned, the stress of housing, pneumonia, etc. So it no extra development has been needed on that. It's just that it's going into the calf at an older age. Whereas with dairy, you would be tagging it at 2-3 days old. For the management side there, some of the other dairy techs or technologies, it's the technology that's been in, like a collar, for example, it's now gone into an ear tag. It's all very much the same. Not the only thing I would say that has been adapted is maybe the data platforms behind it, because you require a lot more data in the dairy than you would in the beef. You'll be looking at a lot more at the genetics of the cow for mastitis and the heritability of mastitis and things like that. that data will be there, and you won't necessarily need that. In the beef, it would be good to have it because it is a heritable trait. There's a lot more data behind the dairy that's not needed, but that's about it. The tech that we're bringing across, if we can come across, there's not much changes are required. Maybe just the read range of it, because the benefit of the dairy is they're coming into the parlour twice a day or to a robot 3.5 times a day on average, whereas a beef cow could be outside all year round.
Yeah.
So a hub needs to have a solar panel, it needs to have a longer read range, and or a wider read area. So yeah, that's about the only things. But these changes are normally quite easy to make. It's just looking at a slightly different technology or a different strength reader.
Yeah. And I think like tech has got a massive place if we think about some of the biggest challenges within livestock farms. Labour is something we hear time and time and time again, that finding available and skilled labour
Mhm.
is very, very challenging. And tech can help make life a bit easier. It can help be an extra pair of eyes in a way if you're collecting data. There's so much for health monitoring as well, isn't there, to maybe try and pick up something that the naked eye maybe isn't, or pick it up faster. I don't know, like what do you think with the people that you're seeing going into going into kind of buying tech and such, like what's the driver for them? Is it to try and help with the labour, or what would you say is the biggest driver?
Labour would be one of the first ones. Cost saving would be another. Obviously, we've already touched on return on investment, ROI. If they don't see a return on investment in the product, they're not going to invest in it. I mean, the basic one's weighing systems. If an animal's losing weight, there's something wrong with it, and that's you'll see an animal losing weight before you'll see a physical sign of an illness. You can pick up on pneumonia, and we've seen it in various different projects. We've picked up an animal losing weight before the physical sign of pneumonia had actually come in, like 2-3 days before the physical sign comes in. But if you go to like the health monitoring tags, you'll maybe pick up on it 5 days before because of a temperature change. And obviously that's making a difference. Auto weighing is definitely something that shouldn't be ignored when looking at the buying tech for making your farm more productive. Because if you're auto weighing, you're not taking the animal out of the pen once a month to be weighed. It has been shown that you can get your animal away a lot earlier having auto weighing than you are manually weighing, because that element of stress of just taking it out of the pen, that could lead up to 7 days of no weight gain. Yes, they might stand still. Most times they will lose weight for a couple of days, but obviously the more they get used to it, the better they become. But if you're just a finishing unit taking store cattle and weighing them every 2 weeks, they've not got that time to get used to it. And obviously, if you're getting your animals away earlier, you're saving time on labour, you're saving money on feed, bedding, diesel, whatever you need to bring those livestock through. But also, you might not be getting penalised for taking cattle in overweight because you're setting optimum weights on the devices you're using. That, right, I need 720 for my bull beef. If I go over 720, I'm going to get penalised. But obviously, you still, if you take them to 720 on farm and there's a 2-week waiting list, you can set parameters on the systems like that as well for your daily life weight gain and how long it's going to take you to get there. So you can even get a guide of when that animal is going to be ready to get it booked in 3 weeks before to make sure it's going to be ready. And obviously, taking them to that point, you could also allow for weight loss between the farm and the market, or the farm and the slaughterhouse as well, because obviously they're got empty by the time they get there. They're not eating in that transport. They're passing everything that they can in that trailer. You know what it's like when you have to power wash out at the end of the day when you've been there. So I mean, they are losing weight between there. So if you need to even take them past that weight to allow for that travel, you're getting the optimum out of your animal, not being penalised for it.
I wonder if we should take a step back and think actually something we have missed so far in our conversation is how you got into this industry, and very rare we're speaking about weighing. I wonder if we give a quick, if you give us a quick rundown of your career to date
Oh
and
yeah,
your experience in the sector.
yeah. So I'm technically not from farming background, but I am. My grandfather was a head gamekeeper on an estate, and we had a tenant farm there. My dad and uncle came out of it, weren't interested, so I technically not come from farming background, although I've got the past. Always been involved in livestock through my dad's best mate since a very young age, and we always kept sheep from a very young age as well. We've always had sheep. kicking about somewhere. Went to SRUC at Craveston, or SAC at that time, and it was great just to be involved in that, because obviously with not having a proper farming background, it was great just to be coming in fresh. I didn't have a farm to come back to like others did, so I needed to be there learning as much as I could, going out and get experience. I went to work on a farm as a livestock manager, running an Aberdeen Angus herd, straight out of college, and I never did the year out thing, the gap year, going to New Zealand or anything. Wish I did, just for the experience, but I didn't. Went straight into work, led on to other things, engineering, stuff like that. Was in my family business for a little while, but then I got this opportunity to come into sales, which then led on to product development, which is where we get to on this, is I was a part of the team that developed the beef monitor through an Innovate UK project, and it was the second stage beef monitor I was a part of, so that was making it auto sending of data, taking it away from the manual downloads, etc. So I've been a big part of that, and a lot of the studies around that, bringing the product forward, but also moving it into and using it in other projects to gather data to validate other products, which has been really interesting. And then obviously being able to do work and projects, with leaving that job to come to this one, being able to go and work with other people doing like-minded products and helping them, offering advice, or even doing reports for them, validating their product for them, which is great, because obviously I'm now neutral, have to be neutral, can't be brand specific, and it's been great to actually help people take their products to the next stage, or even help them get contacts to take them abroad, which has been great fun to do as well, and obviously we've been a big part of that, which is good.
And when you're saying about taking abroad, I'm from the outside looking in at your job, and I think your job sounds pretty cool because you do get to go abroad with your job, don't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Where have you been and what have you seen?
I've not been abroad recently, but back in 2023, I got to go to Brazil, to the Sao Paulo corridor for 10 days to look at different farming businesses out there. It was really interesting, got to see some big innovation facilities. The biggest sort of research facility out there we were working with, an organisation called Embrapa, which would be similar to SRUC, but obviously doing the whole range right across the board. Absolutely huge. Got to meet a dairy farm that was producing lactose-free milk, things like that. It was just, it was incredible. And eat meat all day long, 3 courses of meat every day. It was great, for 10 days, and very cheap. 15 of us ate in a restaurant for £150 it equated to, and we all had steak and we all had pudding.
Dare I ask how it tasted?
It was amazing. I'm not gonna lie, it was amazing. It was really good. It was really interesting. I was out during the heat wave as well, so it was like 41 to 45 degrees every day. Landed back in Aberdeen on a Saturday morning at -9, so it was quite a difference temperature-wise. But really interesting. Got to see the different agroforestry setups. The fact that they're not using pesticides either out there was really interesting. Using things like, there was a beetle. This is the interesting one. There was a beetle that could wipe out a mango tree in a matter of days. And what they found was that the beetle actually preferred a certain kind of bush. So what they did was plant bushes at the bottom of the mango trees. The beetle were attracted to this bush rather than the mango tree, so it saved the mangoes. Just little things like that. And it was all around pesticides. Very big into biodiversity. Was it 20,000 different varieties of bees out there? 5,000 of them are stingless. Yeah, really, really impressive, actually. I was suitably impressed. I was shocked at how good it was, actually.
And if there's so much towards biodiversity, are they using biodiversity monitors, or
No,
how are they? Is there anything in that space out there?
not like we're using here. They're not getting paid for biodiversity, much like a lot of things that we're doing here. They're producing beehives and putting into like flats and things like that, so you can grow your own honey. But it's also then the bees are there pollinating the plants and the trees in the towns and cities as well. So it's very much like what we're doing here. There's not exact direct payments for it, but they're doing everything to benefit the environment.
And what biodiversity sensors are we using here? Enlighten me.
So we've got a lot of listening devices, so listening to insect wing beat, listening to bird song, that are then AI identifying what's actually there. One thing I didn't know before I started this job is moths are actually nocturnal pollinators. I did not know that. And there's over 800 different species of moth in the UK. And several of them are these little micro moths. So it might look like a fly that's flying past you, but it could actually be a moth. And there's so many different kinds of bees in this country as well that all do different things. And until I started working on a strawberry project, we won't talk about it too much because there's obviously a livestock one. They're using certain kind of bees to help pollinate the strawberries, and it's all around. If you do not pollinate the plant correctly, the shape of the fruit is not correct, or the size of the fruit, or the colour. It's all around the pollination. A lot of it is determined by pollination, and this is where a lot of people are now picking up on it. Even growing wildflower bumblebee mixes at the side of your potato crop is helping grow potatoes and pollinate them correctly. Things like that. It's really interesting, and obviously a lot of it could come down to being used as animal feed as well.
So if we've got 800 different types of moths, can the biodiversity sensors tell you what type of moths you've got?
Yeah,
Are they as good as that?
yeah. So we had cameras that we put on some of our farms as a part of an internal project where we just put a UV light in a camera and it was recording 24/7, and it was just capturing the moths as it came to the light, and the AI was able to identify the moth from the shape and the size of it, etc., and the patterns on it.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it was really, really impressive. The other thing that we did was with the bees was we had AI beehives with tubes going into them. And as the bees obviously walk through the tubes into their hive to do their work, creating the honey, they leave samples of the pollen because the pollen sticks to their legs. We replaced the tubes once a month, so obviously the pollen at the bottom of the tube was obviously the oldest, and we could identify which tree, plant, shrub, crop that the bees were actually pollinating. A part of the test actually allowed us to see that the bees flew 10 kilometres because they pollinated an oilseed rape crop, and the nearest oilseed rape was 10 kilometres away from the beehive. And we've always been told that it's roughly about 5 kilometres they'll fly, but they obviously flew 10 for this one, which is really interesting. That just allows, what it allowed us to see as well was the measures that the farmers had put on farm for their beetle banks or grass margins or their catch crops. We could actually identify if these mixes were actually working for them. Were the bees going out and pollinating these crops or hedgerows to benefit their farm? If they weren't, they would then look at the results and go, oh, actually, I need to add this into my mix to keep the bees here and make sure there was a flower sort of all the way through the season that the bees would be there.
What an amazing way to do an impact assessment
Mm-hmm.
after having an environmental scheme or something similar.
Yeah.
It's amazing though how much tech there must be out there that we just don't know about.
Yeah.
And I mean like the stuff that's marketable just now, not even the stuff that is currently
Yeah,
getting made.
there's so much out there. There is honestly so much, and it even goes down as far as LoRaWAN, which is obviously something we speak about quite a lot between us. The amount of different LoRaWAN sensors you can get, there's thousands, tens of thousands of different sensors. You can even get a sensor that you can stick under the leaf to measure the moisture on the leaf in a crop. Things like that. It's just ridiculous. Even catching flies to see what's kicking about, fungus spores, they're all there. It's just they're not being used because people don't know about them, or they're just not quite at that commercialized stage as well. They're just on that sort of borderline.
Yeah. And when we speak about LoRaWAN, for those who don't know what LoRaWAN is, I wonder if you just try and explain it.
I couldn't tell you the abbreviation off the top of my head. That's one of those ones. But LoRaWAN is a sort of low data sending product, so you can have a GPS ear tag in a cattle beast, so you can identify it through this. So it's a base station that can connect to the internet through a SIM card and send data all to one place. But you could have pH boluses in a cow, you can have temperature and humidity sensors in a shed or a polytunnel, GPS a tag, like I said, you could put a GPS locator on your tractor, things like that, and it's just sending low amounts of data each time to one login. So your farm could have arable, beef and sheep, but you could have different kinds of sensors on there. You could even have fuel monitoring for the fuel tank, things like that. Loads of different sensors. Sensors about £100, £120 each. So really low cost, but giving you a lot of data because it's giving you 24/7 data. It's designed around data that's sending all the time.
And it's small packets of data, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
small
that,
packets.
yeah, rather than being able to stream something,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
So I mean,
small packets.
the prime example is the temperature and humidity sensor. It sends the temperature every 15 minutes with humidity every 15 minutes, so you can actually look at what your shed's doing.
Yeah.
Quite good for using in fruit production, potato stores, but even cattle sheds. So if you know you've got a pneumonia risk in your shed, you can actually look at what's actually happening in the shed. Are you getting the wind through the shed? Are you? There's loads of different things. Weather stations and everything can all be connected through this.
Yeah. And when we speak then about connectivity, we're about to have a storm here in Scotland and
Mm-hmm.
we're watching our own internet connections. But how big a problem do you think connectivity is for the uptake of agri-tech?
Massive. I mean, a prime example is obviously like this has obviously been recorded way before we put it out. Storm Amy's coming in. I've not even got fibre broadband at my house yet, and I'm just outside Brechin. They're putting in the pipes and the cables now, but we're still not going to be connected till December next year. So it just tells you. But one of the big things is you can get connectivity to the farmhouse and maybe the farm sheds. The fields outlying are a different story altogether, or a bit of hill land that's been grazed with virtual fencing collars. 9 times out of 10, the problem is it's the signal. The technology works great. It's just it goes that little bit far and then the signal's lost. That is one of the biggest issues. But what I have seen recently is a lot of the local glens, etc., are now getting masts put up, so that hopefully will help going forward. But it's always signal strength is the biggest thing. A lot of the cost going into a lot of these technologies comes because of a SIM card being in it. So it's adding to your subscription. The SIM card might not be a big cost, but it's constantly running data. That's the cost of it. And this is where the LoRaWAN comes in, because it's sending signal to one SIM card. And this is where also multiplexing could come in handy when you've got one SIM card and multiple sensors connected to one base station or one system. That is the biggest thing. But connectivity is massive, absolutely
Yeah.
massive.
So we are both involved in the Opportunity Northeast Agri-Tech project, Ross, and we did a survey, I think it's 2 or 3 years ago. And one of the questions that we asked was, how do people rate their broadband? And that was predominantly people in the northeast of Scotland that have responded to this. Only 7% of people said excellent, 23% of people said good.
Yeah,
Um, so less than 50%, I think, well, less than 30% have rated it as good. So that shows how much of an issue it is.
yeah,
Even when we asked people about the quality of their mobile phone signal in the good and excellent category, we were at 26% between the two of them. We had also asked what's the biggest tech that you use, and the biggest answer was mobile apps. So
yeah.
I don't know. Do you think mobile apps will still be the biggest use, or do you think it's moved on a fair bit in that 2 3 years?
I think so. And what was quite interesting about that survey we did as well was the amount of people that didn't include the weather app as a tool they were using on farm. Um, it was something they looked at first thing in the morning to see what the weather was going to be, or looking at last thing at night, and they didn't see that as a tool, which I thought was quite interesting off the bat of that. But yeah, mobile apps, there's more and more available. I mean, all your livestock management apps are available on phone as well as on your PC. Um, Most are going mobile too, or at least you can go on to it on your search engine on your phone. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting that survey. I really enjoyed being a part of that survey because some of the answers we got back actually were really good. That actually allowed us to inform us, and it was the reaction of the amount of people we sent it to and the feedback we got. I think it was 114 out of 250 or something.
Yeah,
Like,
it was really high. It was really
yeah,
high, the response. And I think another key part of it was we had asked them what the biggest barriers were. The first one was cost, which we kind of spoke about already with the return on investment. It was outstandingly the highest, but the next highest was the availability of independent expertise,
yeah,
and that they were buying the tech, but then didn't really know how to maximize that. And I
yeah.
don't know if that's really moved on.
I don't think it has. And the individual expertise, there are people out there, as we know, working with your different monitor farms, Opportunity Northeast, etc., that come in as independents. But some farms are even focusing on these independents even when their products are in warranty, and they should be getting backup from the manufacturers, and they'd rather pay that independent on top of what they're already paying. but there's not enough. But the thing is, to be an expert on everything is really difficult. You'll never be an expert on everything because something changes. It's the same as buying a laptop, a TV, a phone. As soon as you buy it, it's out of date. As soon as you take it from the shop. I got an iPhone 16 the other week, and I thought, yes, I've got the latest phone, and then the 17 came out. So I don't have the best phone anymore, kind of thing. And that's the first time I've ever got the new style phone as it's come out. I've always been about 5 behind.
And your phone's a nice example there actually, because every time that you go onto your settings, you've got an app update of
Yeah,
something in there, and that just shows how quickly it's moving, it's changing. It
yeah,
might just be something as silly. Sometimes it's because of a bug. Sometimes it's just as silly as there's one word change or something.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Whereas the technology we're using on farms, they were still using some technologies that are ahead of their game 10 years ago, and they're still ahead of their game now. And prime example would be some of your really well, not expensive, but your larger weighing boxes for your weigh scales. Some of those are still way ahead of what the industry are actually using. We're still just using that big number that comes up and tells you it's 700 kilos, and you're not using everything else to run a management or the management system that it could be attached to it. And a lot of them are. I mean, I've got a box sitting here in my office. That was purchased 7 years ago and it's still ahead of its game. And that's one of the things. We're not that kind of stuff's not moving. There's maybe new software for it to keep it going and sort bugs, like you say, on a phone, but it's not at that same level as phones. GPS for tractors, we're still at that 2.5 centimeter precision. Is the kind of top notch. We're still working on RTK. Nobody else has come in with anything else at the moment. Although we're working on 4G and 5G just now on phones, 6G is being worked on, but 5G is not even working properly yet, kind of thing. It's yeah. There's a lot of the other industries are investing heavier and bringing the products forward, whereas we're at just now is we've got stuff that's ready to use now that was developed 10 years ago. We're not even fully using it yet, and it's right
I
across
think
the
that
sector.
there's maybe something there in an education piece again, though, isn't there? That is it that we've got, say, this way box that way head that can do so many more things, but we're using it for that's how many kilos this beast is. That we just don't know what else it can do, or we can't invest that time in understanding. Right, you download it. This is how you work. I don't know, an Excel filter or a
Yeah,
something, and it maybe goes back to that. What is your problem? Is it
mm-hmm.
what is your problem that you're trying to identify? Is your overarching problem something like you've got a pneumonia problem, say, or
Mm-hmm.
like you've got a health problem? How can the tech help get over that? I think
Yeah,
is the big thing. Is your profitability damaged, or not as are you not as profitable as you should be because you're not getting the feed efficiency that you should be, and
yeah.
it's making the understanding what's wrong to be able to get the data to help you solve that problem.
And what's interesting is that is we're probably one of the worst industries. Speaking from my sheep head now, as a whole farming industry, we're probably one of the worst industries for if something's not working, we just put it back in the box, we stick it on the shelf, it becomes an expensive doorstop. We'll go and mouth off about it to our mates down the market, down the pub, whatever, when we're all together, but we won't actually feed it back to the organisation that made it. This is where that gap in the middle of the industry and the tech industry is missing as well. We need to be able to feed that back to them for them to be able to improve what they're doing to help us actually improve what we're doing. So that there's this to and fro and isn't happening as well. And that's one of the beauties of the job I'm in and the farm network that we've got is that these farmers are happy to give constructive criticism back to the organisations that are making the tech, but also they're there and they're happy to be a part of the co-development of the product, hopefully solving a problem that's in the industry, not just something that's fancy and shiny that looks like it could be good fun and it's not actually solving a problem, which is great.
So to think in 5 years' time, how would you like to see farm tech being used and implemented on farms, livestock farms?
Oh, you know what my answer is going to be. I'd love to see more of it being out there and actually being used. But there's a few shake-ups need to happen. First, we need to get that training there for the people, whether that's a regulation that It has to be training in a YouTube video form or on at least a document, that a simple step-by-step guide to using the product. That needs to be resolved first before we go pushing any more high-end tech out. Because if we do that, it's just going to be more and more tech that falls into this crevasse of adoption that is not happening. And it's not just tech; it's innovation as a whole. We need to share the feedback. We need to show companies need to show the value in why that farmer buys that product, where that return on investment is. Yes, it'll be at the best case scenario they'll try and sell it on, but at least if they show best case scenario, the industry might go, I can get up to there by buying this tech and implement it onto my farm. It's going to be different on every farm because no farm's the same. But that needs to be resolved first. We need to offer that training or do something about that to get people actually using the product and getting the full benefit out of it first, is what I would love to see. And then the technology follows on from there. Get that rapport.
Tech could be a really nice carrot to help encourage some of the next generation into farming as well. There is a lot there. Okay, and in the survey we did, it looked like older generation and younger generation had the same usage of tech, but to help with succession and such like, it can give the younger generation maybe ownership
Mm-hmm.
of that part. Maybe if it's not being used to its full potential at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
that can give them something to really own and develop and push further in the farm, and maybe looking at future strategy, labor use, business efficiency, use of inputs, all that stuff. Really, tech's got to be in that discussion there now.
Oh, yeah. And you see a lot of the people that are developing the tech, it's developed through a university or a college project, and that's where it starts. So it's these young people that are even developing it. It's getting the people to invest it. And you see it when a young person comes into their farm. They get a bit of a leash on them saying, but I want to try this on the farm. Can we try this? And the changes start to happen slowly. But it's always old school. And this is not the whole sector, the majority of it. And we saw it in the survey that that's the way I've always done it. I'm going to keep doing it. Doesn't matter how good that bit of tech is. Well, that's the way I've always done it. Unless we can change that mindset as well, the tech is not going to get adopted, and that's a massive issue. We need to show the benefits of the tech, and if we can get the young ones doing it, bring it in as a part of a university and college course where we teach them about the tech and how it works. Obviously, being brand neutral, show them the 4 or 5 different weighing devices they can have, show them the different GPS they can have, the different tractor brands. Teach it in the college and the university before it goes out to the farm, and then they can go back and say, I found this really good weigh box. We should really try this. We've got the weigh bars. Let's buy the box for it. Do it that way, as well as training when a new item is bought as well.
Yeah, no, that is a good shout. We've spoken a bit about the Opportunity Northeast project there, so I wonder we'll maybe just put the link for that in the show notes as well, because there's a huge amount of resources there.
Mm-hmm.
Within that project, there is a demonstration farm who's deployed various different tech for livestock, and there is a huge amount of resource in there, so we will add that as well. One final question for you, Ross. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What motivates you?
Make a change. And I think the fact that I'm a part of this exciting part of the industry that's developing something that can help benefit the farming sector and push it forward really gets me up in the morning. Not the fact that I have to get up in the morning and check sheep and get kids up for school or anything, but it's the fact that my job, I'm getting to see the tech that's coming. I'm getting to be a part of the development, speaking with farmers on the ground that are going to use it or are testing it, that can then lead to more and more people investing in that product, helping grow these SMEs that their product could be purchased by a larger company, and giving that help to people that are going to obviously grow their businesses in more of the ways than one, whether it's the tech or the farm, and just try to make British farming more profitable, not just Scottish farming, British farming as a whole, because we're working with Scottish companies, Irish companies, British, Welsh, and they're all wanting to help each other, and they're looking at the sales point for that. That's what gets me up in the morning. It's just helping British farming get moving forward, making it more profitable.
Brilliant. And I thought you were going to say your sheep. So you failed me on what I thought your answer was going to be.
There's some days I can't be bothered looking at sheep at half day anyway, but yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Ross. It's been really good speaking to you today, and some really good points there about education, what that might look like in colleges, how it might help implement tech going forward. So thank you very much.
No, it's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Stock Talk. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and follow our show. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, you may enjoy some of our other Farm Advisory Service podcasts. This podcast was presented by me, Kirsten Williams, produced by Heather Stewart, edited by Kieran Sim, with executive producers Kirsten Blackwood and Kerry Hammond. Come back next time for more Stock Talk.
The Farm Advisory Service podcast. Audio advice on livestock, crops and soils, environment, rural business, and more. Brought to you in association with the Scottish Government.